Manu, you know I didn't want to come back to America, especially not when I did. I wanted to stay in Spain with you and face our decision with logic and love. But my mother doesn't have much time and she needs me here now. You remember the doctor telling us that I would be a regular for a while and not to worry if I didn't get my period within a month? Well, I was prepared for that. But 30, then 40, then 50 days passed, and it felt like hurricane waves heaving inside of me. At first it looked like a mandarin orange was stuck in my abdomen, and then a grapefruit, and finally a cantaloupe. I had to wear overalls because I couldn't even button my pants. I had these new measurements and a feeling like my brain had been doused in heavy cream. That's when I called you. I thought maybe the procedure hadn't worked, or maybe it had been twins and it had only worked on one of them. I've heard that can happen. I know how crazy that sounds, and believe me, even I felt like I was losing my mind. It was so good to hear your voice on the phone and so nice of you to drop everything and tell me it would all be okay. But I know you thought I was hysterical with culture shock, with my mom getting sick and sitting around all day with nothing to do. You thought it was all in my head, and to be honest, so did I. We were both wrong. I got ill, like the ocean was inside of my stomach. Could you imagine if the Atlantic were made of the blood of women like me? Women whose blood has been tricked into thinking it will be used to nourish a baby, and in turn tricks the woman again? I took some ibuprofen and went to bed early, but woke up in the middle of the night to vomit. I made it to the bathroom and up came the chicken and rice I'd eaten that night, along with lots of water. I got up to go back to bed, and suddenly, when I was halfway down the hall, a heavy white liquid came up through my throat violently. I immediately felt better. At first I thought it was the milk I'd drunk that morning, but then I realized it was much too thick for that. I felt better, like my body and hormones had reconciled immediately. My head was clear and the pain decreased the way high tide drains to low, but in fast forward. With a jolt like electricity that left my head hurting a little bit, like a hangover vanishing from one instant to the next. I got some rags to clean it up, and when I bent down to scrub the carpet, I noticed something moving. It was no bigger than a cockroach, but thicker. A little thing with a little body and a little face, looking very proud of having been born. It was a baby. I scooped him up and I cleaned him and brought him to bed with me, thinking that I must be hallucinating. But when I woke up in the morning, there he was, curled up in my palm like a baby in a calendar, sleeping soundly. He's a miracle. He has your eyes, brown and not much bigger than pinheads. He's very, very small, Manu, and when I hold him in my hand, his head rests on the patch of flesh between my middle and ring fingers, and his feet don't quite come to the heel of my hand. He has your long arms, though, little tubes of spaghetti, and when I spread them open, his fingers reach the edges of my hand, and it looks like a miniature crucifixion is taking place in my palm. But he fusses if I do that, and while the noise is nothing more than a whisper, his face wears the agony of a real man nailed to a cross. No, he prefers to be curled up in a ball most of the time. I found old Barbie clothes for him, and even they were too big, so I crocheted a sack with the softest yarn I could find and lined it with a piece of cotton sheet that I cut off from the ones I sleep on. I threaded a necklace chain through it, and now he hangs around my neck, even when we're at home. He's happy in there. He likes to be close to my heart, I think. Manu, what I'm trying to tell you is that you have a son the size of my smile. Sometimes I lay him on my pillow and give him a kiss goodnight, which he loves. He giggles and it sounds like the softest gust of wind stirring up scraps of confetti, and his feet poke at one corner of my mouth while his little head rests at the other. I call him Lolo, after you. He's so impossibly small, Manu, but that doesn't mean anything about the space that you take up in my heart. Sometimes I take him down to the ocean and we look at the waves. It's cold and I think the noise is a lot for him, so I keep him close. Some days the sky looks very near and very blue, and I think all I would have to do is reach up and open my mouth and I could lick the sky, which I'm sure would taste like cold peppermint. Other days it looks so far away, I can't believe the sun will come back in summer and warm us. Sometimes a sudden panic sets in, and I worry the planet's very place in the solar system is so precarious that we'll wake up tomorrow in another world entirely, with a new language to learn, new weather, and new diseases to negotiate. Maybe they'll tell us it's a language we already knew, but we'll have forgotten it, or at least forgotten enough of it that we'll walk around as though we're mutes. Imagine if we were somewhere else looking down at the earth. Wouldn't Spain and America look so close together? Wouldn't the Atlantic look like a pleasant day's trip and not the monster of distance that it is? Nobody knows what lives in the depths of the sea that separates us. We can't see what's under there. We can't know what creatures crawl or swim, or what if they do something we don't even have a word for? What if there was a word for it a long, long time ago, but all of us, every single human being alive, has forgotten it, and still we fly over it like it's nothing?